Okay, well, now that we've gotten through some of the real tough topics, the statistical arguments, let's get to a debate that has been raging on Twitter and backstage, if you will, on HoopSpeak Live, and that is between Ethan Sherwood-Strauss and Zach Harper over Rajon Rondo's awesomeness or lack thereof. Now, Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, you will be saying in this debate that Deron Williams had a better season than Rajon Rondo.
Can we do an audible there? I think that is more arguable.
Okay.
I would rather go with Steve Nash over him, and I would rather just say that third team All-NBA, as Zach put him in, is a little bit ridiculous, and I just don't understand what the analytical backing of such a choice would be. Third team NBA seems a little too high. Zach. I want to set the parameters there. Let's set them there. So if you're basing this around Deron Williams, I'm sorry, but that's not where the debate is.
Yeah, I guess we could argue Nash over Rondo, considering I put Nash over Rondo on my All-NBA teams.
Because you put Tony Parker as a shooting guard.
Because they picked two guards! It's not my fault that ESPN editors didn't follow the rules. I followed the rules.
Okay. Well, do you think that he should be third team All-NBA just, in general, I guess I'll put it. And I guess you would say yes, since you were choosing your own positions.
If we're not limited to positions, like sub-positions within the guards, like point guard and shooting guard, then I would have Chris Paul and Tony Parker as my top two. I'd have Wade and Kobe in there in some order with a second and third team. I'd have Steve Nash in there, and then it comes down to Rondo, Rose, Westbrook, or, you could even claim Deron Williams, but apparently we're not doing that today because it's Audible Day at HoopSpeak Live. And I think Rose didn't play enough games for me to really consider him. I really don't think Westbrook was that good outside of scoring the ball. I thought his point guarding was not really that good. I don't even care about the assists. I'm just talking about decision-making in general. And I thought his defense was subpar. I think Rondo's defense changes the game more than you would like to admit or let on. And I think that his ability to create offense for everybody on a bad offensive team, that team without him on the court is like 95 offensive rating. That's really bad. Like that's worse than Bobcats bad.
They haven't had a whole lot of time with him off the court, aside from the stretch where he was injured and they played pretty well. He plays the most minutes on that team, which perhaps should be a credit to him. I don't know. I think that Rondo and Bradley together make up a very good defensive tandem. I do think that the best defensive player on that team is Kevin Garnett, and something Beckley said, which I agree with, is that I don't think any point guard you put on that team makes the Celtics a bad defensive team. And if we're contrasting him to Steve Nash, perhaps you want to do that, perhaps you don't. There's no point guard you could put on the Suns that would make them a good defensive team. My thing with Rondo is this. If we're interested in advanced statistics and we're using them to frame our debates, I don't get how you can have somebody who in PER is in the 20s for point guards, and I haven't checked it generally, but it's probably around the 70s or 80s, and just sort of throw it out because we like Rondo. It just seems, and then if you're making the debate point about defense and saying, well, he makes up for it with the defense, my personal opinion is that for him to make up that chasm in offensive efficiency and have it based on his defense, I need it reflected tangibly. Granted, plus-minus isn't the best metric to use, and it's very noisy, but the Celtics weren't better on defense with him on the court this year, and the same as last year. I think, obviously, he helps him, but my point is that if that's the way you're making up ground, I need to see some sort of tangible evidence of that. So that's my gripe with it.
I've got tangible evidence for you. How about this? I know you're not crazy about synergy numbers, and neither am I for the most part. But in isolation sets, there's no way to get around defense in isolation. There's no way of getting around isolation defensive stats. You can either stop a guy or you can't. And he is stopping guys, and I believe he's in the top 30 ranked-wise, and players are only shooting 29% against him in isolation. That's pretty phenomenal. That's not even. That's barely a good batting average. Let alone
if you play in a good defensive team, that's what will tend to happen, is that your guy won't score on you, and it could be attributable to you and it could not be. I mean, I remember points per possession last year, Al Jefferson beat out Kevin Garnett with that metric, and I don't buy that for a second. So I just think that, I'm not saying that that's a useless stat, but I just think it gives a very incomplete picture. And also, I'd say Avery Bradley's probably a superior defender.
You mentioned PER, and he's not an efficient offensive player, but you've also mentioned that it is rewarding guys with high usage. He's not high usage. He is a very low usage point guard, and if you want to put in more advanced stats, I believe he's 4th among point guards in terms of win shares. So, I mean, you can't just use PR and say he's not efficient.
It's win scores. Win shares, he's about, I think, around as bad as he is. Not as bad. I shouldn't say it as that. He's a decent NBA player by these metrics. But he's around what he is in PR and win shares. In win scores, he's better because win scores really loves rebounding, in my opinion, to a fault. They have Anderson Varejao as the 6th best player overall in the NBA. So I just think that that's a faulty metric, and I wouldn't go by that to Rondo.
Bam! But if you're using PER for high usage guys, and he's not a high usage guy, then I don't understand how that makes any sense.
Tom with the stats are boring.
Yeah, I think
Tom's just looking at himself in a mirror.
I think that we are done talking about Rajon Rondo until the playoffs start and he starts putting up triple doubles on national TV, because that's, national TV is when Rajon Rondo comes out. I love when announcers do the Well, I was listening to the radio in Boston, and they were like, Rajon Rondo with another national TV triple-double, as though those count for more, which I guess they do, probably in public perception, but I think in the wins column...
They add 2 MVP votes per national triple-double, so that's actually true. That's a huge
that's a stat I can support.
Yeah, that's just a fact.